Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This week we have another video submission for my schooling at Sonoran Desert Institute. This submission is going to be for my class FTT 221. That is the Sights, Optics, and Accuracy. This is going to be the week 3 practical application, and what that entails is the scope ring lapping lab. Never done this before. Honestly, before starting schooling, I'd never heard of lapping rings. As far as I was concerned, you just bought the rings and put the scope on. Uh, but with that said, this is the proper way to make sure everything is in line and that your scope tube is not being crimped in any odd way that it's not supposed to. Rings coming from the factory may not be perfectly round; they may be kind of an oval shape. And when you're paying upwards of $1,000 for a scope, uh, you want to take every precaution you can to not destroy that. So without further ado, let's hop right in and give this a try. So what we're going to do first is we're going to remove, we don't have to remove them actually for the first part. We're going to put in our alignment pins, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's two of them. One goes in each ring, and you want to get the points touching as closely as possible, point to point. After that, once we determine how much needs to be lapped, we're going to take the tops of the rings off, coats the tops and the bottom with the Wheeler 220 lapping compound, and we'll work it with our lapping bar until we get it to where our pins fit flush. Other materials I have, just some cleaning pads, uh, some cotton swabs, and some 91% alcohol. So, let's get right into it. We want to make sure our gap is the same on each side of the ring. Now I don't have a rifle without a scope on it already. I don't have one that I want to remove the scope from. So we'll just be using this wooden block with the rails mounted to it. Now, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but this is actually, these rings are pretty well aligned. But for the purposes of the video, we'll go in and lap them anyways. Alright, so just loosen these and pull our alignment pins out. Remove these rings completely. Actually, one thing we should do first. If I could find my Sharpie. So this front ring, we're going to mark with just a straight line. And the back of the back ring, we're going to mark with an X. That way these rings are always put back on the same way they were when we started lapping them. So now with your rings marked, go ahead and remove them. And we will apply our compound. So that's what the first ring looks like. If I could get the light to cooperate with me. I don't know if you can tell. It's cleanly coated. Let's put it side by side with this one. You can tell the difference. All right. Let's just replace our rings the way they come. All right. Now, with that done, we're going to take our lapping bar. We're going to put the hole farthest at the back. And we're going to call this our front. Basically, so we're going to want this to sit about here. So we're going to coat our lapping bar with compound as well. All right, that's a good coating on the front of our bar. Now we're just going to insert it through our back ring first. And cut the back. And we're going to go ahead and insert our handle. That goes in the center hole. We're going to go ahead and tighten these rings just a hair. Remember, we're keeping the gap the same on both sides of the ring. Go back and forth with it. All right. Let's tighten these rings down another little bit. Let's check that. Take one of our pads. And wipe the gunk out. So there's our first ring. You can see we've already taken some of the bluing off of it, which tells me that this ring was not exactly round. This one we're going to put a little alcohol on. And this will take off any of the oils. And there they are, all cleaned up. All right. So as we discovered before, the scope rings come from the factory pretty straight. They were already lined up pretty well. So what we're going to do now is just check again to make sure that we didn't take it out of a line. See if you can tell. Get that black ring out of the way. These scope rings are perfectly aligned now, and they are perfectly round. There's no sort of a gap anywhere around the ends of the bar. All right, so I'm going to say that this is successfully aligned, lapped, perfectly rounded. It's been cleaned up. You could throw these rings on, I would say, an AR. AR platforms usually have pretty straight rails. Anything with a straight rail, these rings should still be in a line. If I were going to put these rings in scope on one of my personal firearms, I would, once I put it on, I would recheck and ensure that everything is still in line. And if not, I would relap the rings while they're sitting on the rail that they're going to be on. Anytime you're going to mount a scope, you want to lap your rings on the rail that the scope will be on, if that makes sense. Because there are, with anything that's machined, there's going to be variations in just tolerances. Things aren't going to be exactly perfect every time. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks everyone for watching, and keep an eye out for the next one.